During a post-cabinet media briefing, Minister in the Presidency Khumbudzo Ntshavheni said the government will, quote-unquote, smoke them out. She was referring, of course, to the illegal miners that are underground near the northwest town of Stilfontein. Let's get reaction now on these comments and the government's Operation Valamgodi strategy. I'm joined by Zethu Hlatshwayo, spokesperson of the National Association of Artisanal Miners. Zethu, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. Just your thoughts when you heard those comments from the minister in the presidency yesterday.
No, good afternoon to you, Budvuyo, and good afternoon to your viewers at home. It is sad and disappointing, really, to hear, such, harsh words, because we all know that we live under, a constitutional democracy that is the most progressive constitution in the world, and which is, opens with the preambles, of recognizing the injustice of our past and swearing that we are not going to return to those times. So what is currently happening is exactly that, it feels like it's a reversal of the gains that we have been made, by our country in trying to redress the injustice of the past. But I think it means also that desperate times calls for desperate, measures, and these are also dangerous, measures, I must say. So I think we can be able to bring in forward, other, strategies that are safer, that are in line with the constitution of the country, and even the United Nations Charter. If you look at the United Nations, they are currently championing something that is called the NAP, the National Action Plan. In many countries, they have formalized, this sector. So our government, instead of putting, more effort into those kind of initiatives, we are diverting and putting our resources and all our eggs in one basket. This it has a potential and a recipe for disaster, because if one thing can happen, we will lose a lot of lives, innocent lives, of people, men and women, just because they wanted to put bread on the table. So it's unfortunate that we don't see things in the same perspective, or not speaking from the same position of understanding of human life being superior to any other thing.
Perhaps it's worth reminding our viewers and South Africa generally that organizations like yours, but also others like your Makua's people affected by mining, have had protest actions, marches. You've made representations to the government suggesting alternative ways, or perhaps more progressive, some would say, ways of dealing with this question.
Yeah, I think that we've made numerous submissions, in many platforms, in all the public participations, to make sure that we do have representation, and we do even put in written submissions. But what is not pleasing is that some of the things that you submit or you try to, advocate for, they end up not being, considered. So then it makes the process, not very much helpful, because at the end of the day, when we make submissions, we have an expectation that those submissions should be considered, but they should be also attended to and be implemented or be amended and be reflect in the final submissions. But when you find that bulk of the things that you have made through submissions, through a legal process, a process that was developed for a specific reason, to make sure that issues that are being raised by all the voices in our communities, they end up being in the written documents that will guide and lead our country as a progressive constitutional democracy. So that is the what we are lacking as a country, to say all the voices that raise their issues, they are not just raising issues for the sake of just raising issues. They are raising those issues because they're important. They are very close to them. They can impact them. So it's important that when people make those submissions, even if it's oral, submissions, those submissions should be captured and they should be considered and scrutinized and seen and looked at, with an honest view of trying to see what we are speaking of. And because what you should also maybe understand is that our leaders, they are on a certain level of consciousness. They are educated and they don't communicate to our people at the level of understanding, at a level whereby our communities can thoroughly engage. If you come to a public participation one time with a thick document that is written in really, legal, jargon, it's going to be a challenge for our communities to understand the document. But more than that, to be able to make submissions that are rich, that are inclusive, So those are the things that are lacking in what is supposed to be happening when it comes to, your public participation. But it must also be, FP, free, prior, and informed consent, not just a tick box exercise, so that we met, we talked, and nothing really happened. So it must be something that can be, meaningful and can be implemented effectively, so that we don't leave any voice, behind.
And of course, one part that must be underscored in your approach is that you are not condoning lawlessness. Of course, the police and the defense force and the other state law enforcement agencies have a role and a duty to play, which is bestowed on them by the Constitution. But you are saying that there's a broader way of looking at the problem given its various aspects or facets. And I'm personally inspired by the story of, for example, Bosveld Mines in KwaZulu-Natal. We just spoke to Quentin George, who is the CEO, who spoke about how in their particular case they've had to bring in what were previously Zamas, they formed co-ops, and right now everyone is making some money, all seems to be working well. Yes, he says they haven't reached their final destination yet, but so far so good, and it's working well for everybody. And this is what essentially what you've been arguing as the association all along.
Yeah, no. Thank you very much, good for you. I'm inspired when I see big companies like Bosveld. Fortunately for us, we had an opportunity, to have a sit down with Mr. Quentin George, and invite him and sit down and talk about the struggle, what is currently happening, and we were inspired by that story, of what he has done, through that model of the win-win solution, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to survive, everyone wants to have a better life, everyone wants to have security and sustainability in their lives, So the model that has been used, by Bosveld, we really were impressed by it, because it's really considering everyone, everyone that is a role player in the whole sector or in the whole value chain, is become a beneficiary, not just a beneficiary. The government now is able to get their rates and taxes. People can contribute meaningfully, and dignity is restored to the lives, of artisanal miners. These are some of the examples of what we were talking about, to say that coexistence, a meaningful, coexistence between the large-scale mining companies and artisanal and small-scale miners is the solution, because really the expertise that, Bosveld is bringing into the sector, safety, the consent of working, underground, the consent of illicit flows of minerals, all of those are just catered in just one solution. So these are some of the things that we have been advocating for. That is why we have reached out to Mr. Bosveld, Mr. Quentin George, and engaged him. And really, we have been trying to also, making this example to the DMRE. Our last meeting, we did raise this issue to say there is an opportunity, there is a case study that can be, implemented and be seen. So we are still awaiting for all these like-minded other government institution, to learn from Bosveld how they've done things, and then we can be able to have a framework and a model already there and there. Because people cannot, wait forever for something to happen for them to eat. They need something that can be done now. So this is the prime example of what can be done now. So what is stopping us is just getting all the players in one table and make sure that we talk from an honest position and from a position of wanting to make a change.
Let me thank you very much for your time, Zethu. Really appreciate it.